With every forced smile, every silent nod, every quiet struggle, you might think you're getting stronger, learning to navigate the world better. But in reality, you may be one step closer to an emotional meltdown. One step closer to the moment when your silence explodes. You won't see it coming, but it will come. A slammed door, a tearful breakdown, a public outburst that makes no sense to anyone but you. Why does this happen? And more importantly, how do you stop it before it breaks you? The breaking point isn't the beginning. A meltdown doesn't begin when someone screams. It begins in the quiet moments they were never allowed to scream. It begins the day you were told to be strong when you felt like crumbling. The moment you smiled when your chest was aching. The 1,000 times you said, "It's fine." Until one day, it isn't. We talk about breakdowns like they're spontaneous, like someone just snapped. But the human psyche doesn't work like that. Meltdowns are not random events. They are the result of pressure that had nowhere to go. They are, in a way, emotional pillar collapsing under its own weight. What looks like a dramatic fall is often the final act of a long, silent play. Now let's talk psychology. Meltdowns, while not a term coined by early psychologists, can be understood through their theories as expressions of deeper psychological conflict. Freud saw emotional breakdowns as eruptions of the unconscious, when repressed desires or traumas overwhelm the ego's defenses. Carl Jung viewed such crises as necessary ruptures in the individuation process, where the psyche breaks down to rebuild a more integrated self. Maslow saw emotional regression as a response to unmet fundamental needs. When safety, love, or esteem are threatened, the self doesn't grow, it collapses. And Carl Rogers believed that emotional distress stems from a lack of congruence between your inner truth and your outer life. When you can't show the world who you really are, you begin a protest. First in whispers, then in screams. This is where we start. Not with the scream, but with the silence before it. Not with the crash, but with the slow erosion that made the collapse inevitable. Because when we understand that a meltdown is not a moment, but a buildup of every moment we ignored the truth, we stop asking, what caused it? And we start asking, what has been waiting this whole time to be heard? Meltdowns don't make you broken. They make you audible. And that, as uncomfortable as it feels, might be the most honest sound you've made in years. You weren't weak for holding it all in. You were just trying to survive in a world that taught you expression was disruption of the status quo. What you don't realize is that there is tension beneath the calm. There's a kind of suffering that doesn't scream, because silence feels like strength. It buys you peace. It keeps things from falling apart, at least on the outside. It doesn't beg for attention. It blends in. It wears a polite smile. It answers "I'm good" without hesitation. It shows up to work, to dinner, while something trembles underneath. That's the tension we rarely speak of. Not the tension of anger or panic, but the tension of constant pretending. Of needing to appear okay, even when something is quietly tearing inside you. Repression isn't peace. Though it might look like that, it's unconsciously building pressure. Most people think of meltdowns as weakness. But what if it is just honesty that is overdue? The psyche has limits. And every time you swallow your truth to keep the peace, every time you shrink your needs to seem easy to love, every time you nod when you should scream, you're adding weight. Not metaphorical weight, real weight on your system. Stored tension, buried emotion. Eventually, your body starts doing what your voice couldn't. Protesting. Your body protests through fatigue, through anxiety, panic, and collapse. It's no coincidence that so many people break down at the most inconvenient moments. At the dinner table, the office, in the car. It's not the moment that's wrong. It's the system that demanded you hold it in for so long. Emotional repression is like shoving all your garbage into a drawer and calling it minimalist. It looks tidy until it starts to smell. Some of us are praised for how much we can take, but we shouldn't be proud of how well we pretend. Because when you wear being calm like a costume, breakdown becomes inevitable. And here's the catch. Most people don't realize they've been under tension for years, until they finally collapse and feel, for a moment, the terrifying relief of not holding it in anymore. That relief, that's the truth. That's your baseline trying to return. But you don't need to collapse to feel it. You just need to stop running from yourself. However, your eruption is the beginning of your evolution. There's a moment in every meltdown that doesn't look like suffering. It looks like freedom. Tears that feel like release. Not despair. Anger that feels clarifying. Not destructive. And for a split second, you wonder, what if this isn't the worst thing? What if this is the first honest thing I've done in years? That's not collapse. Carl Jung said the process of individuation, the journey toward wholeness, often requires crisis. Why? Because the false self is persistent. It doesn't step aside politely. It resists. It needs to crumble before the real self can breathe. And that crumble doesn't always look nice. Sometimes it's loud, messy, public, shameful. But what's shameful in society is often sacred in psychology. Freud would say your unconscious finally kicked down the door. Maslow would say your unmet needs finally demanded airtime. Rogers would say the pretending cracked, and your true self finally got a voice. So no, it's not always pleasant, but it's almost always necessary. We think meltdowns are the end, but many times they're just the end of pretending. In that sense, they're less like a failure and more like a correction. Of course, it doesn't feel that way when you're in it. It feels like the sky falling. But what if it's not the sky? What if it's the ceiling you built over yourself finally shattering? Alan Watts once said, "The crack in the ego is where the light gets in." Maybe the meltdown is the crack. And maybe that terrifying, tear-streaked, breathless moment of collapse is the first time you've seen your own light. Not the curated one, the real one. And if that's true, then maybe the question isn't, how do I avoid breaking down? Maybe it is, how do I let go before I have to break? And when you answer it, your honest self emerges. When the dust settles, you will not be the same person. You might be quieter, or bolder, or finally able to look people in the eye without smiling. Because something fundamental has shifted. You are no longer in outward performance mode. You are in presence. This doesn't mean everything gets easier. Sometimes it means everything gets realer. You might start saying no. You might stop apologizing for things that weren't your fault. You might cry more freely, or laugh more honestly. This is the gift inside the wreckage, authenticity. Carl Rogers spoke often about congruence, the alignment between our true self and our lived self. Meltdowns often force this alignment, not gently but effectively. They bulldoze the space between who you've become to survive and who you actually are. And once that space is gone, so is the pretending. You may lose some relationships that were built on your silence. You may grieve a version of you that tried so hard to hold it all together. But what remains is real. The post-meltdown self is not fragile, it's forged. Like clay that's been through the fire. Still soft but shaped. And in that shaping, you gain something invaluable. A voice that no longer needs to shout to be heard. You begin to trust your anger, not as a threat, but as a signal. You begin to trust your tears, not as weakness, but as wisdom. You begin to trust yourself, because now you've seen what happens when you don't. Meltdowns are not signs that you failed at life. They are the proof that you were trying too hard to do it in silence. And now, maybe for the first time, you're listening. You're listening to your body, your truth, your breaking point. Not to avoid it, but to finally hear it. And maybe to finally answer back. Not with more silence. Not with more pretending. But with presence.